Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self-improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Today I have with me Jennifer Perez Solar, who is a purveyor of love and light. And I also have Jenn Nadamoto, who is the supernatural alchemist. And they are both with Allow and Flow with Jenn and Jan. And I have actually had Jenn on my show before on the Soul Cafe, and we talked about healing with color and light. And we're going to dive a little bit into that today. And we're also going to see where this energy takes us. So welcome, Jenn and Jan. So glad to have you on today.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm glad to be here. This is great. I'm excited.
So happy to be here with you.
Thank you. So let's dive into color and light. How do we heal with color and light? What does that look like? What is the energy behind that? You know, I just recently did a podcast on the healing benefits of sound. So now it's time to dive a little bit into color and light. What does that look like?
I'm going to let Jan go ahead and start with this, and then I'll jump in. This is what we do. We just kind of.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, we know that we're all energy. I mean, everything is energy, right? And everything that we touch, that we come into contact has an impact on us. So just imagine if we are purposefully and intentionally shining a colored light on us, right? Where we can do intentional healing with that frequency, right? So, you know, I mean, so when we talk about this, it's not only the flashlight or the color light, device that we use. It's everything around us, right?
Yeah, and our chakras all have colors, right, too. So it's like our energetic system is also built off of colors as well. Exactly. And our aura as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and yeah, we could go into the aura thing, but
that's a whole life in itself. Well, let me tag on to what Jan said, because I think that it's something that we do a lot in our classes is we talk about color and how that energy, how we infuse that energy into our bodies, not only through color light, and we use instruments to do that, but also through the clothes that we wear. We noticed that we both were wearing red today. That's an accident. We didn't do this on purpose, but for whatever reason, we were feeling energized. We were feeling passionate about this conversation. So red usually comes in for me, and I'm getting really strong chills on that. So I think
I am too. I just got them too.
Yeah, good point to make. So, you know, it's the colors that we bring on, that we put on our body. It's also the colors that are around us and in our energetic surroundings. So oftentimes we forget, and we live in a monochromatic world. Thank you. My guides are getting ahead of me, so it's flowing in very quickly and it's out the mouth. But that type of world where everything's in grays and tan tones, and people are decorating their houses this way in these tans and grays, and they forget to bring in the color. So we oftentimes talk about bringing in the yellows and the oranges and the blues and the purples. All those colors are meant to do something for you. They're meant to bring another energy to you, because through their frequencies, that's what they do.
Yeah. So let's break that down. Let's go through some of the colors and what are the energies that come through those. Because I think that's important for people to understand. If, you know, because I know when I work with clients, I can tune into the chakra system and see where they have an imbalance. And then I can offer suggestions on certain colors that they may want to start eating or wearing or, you know, kind of surrounding themselves with. So what are those attributes or emotions that might be attached to some of the colors?
Well, I'm going to let Jan jump in on that one too.
Okay, well, so in our classes, we teach people how to actually bring in their own interpretation, because when we're young, I mean, we learn everything from our outside environment, right? And while there are innate properties of each color, and they vibrate at certain frequencies, we may have built into us a different thought pattern, which will change it entirely, right? Because it's all intention as well. So, like, for example, let's take red, right? It could mean passionate. It could mean anger.
Yeah.
It could mean fiery, right? So it also depends on the hue of that color as well. Right. So they're different. So when you ask about that, like even with the chakras, right, it's the colors of the rainbow, right?
Yes.
And from what I've learned from one of my mentors is that it did arise from the hippie phase, right, the 70s, and which is really interesting. So I mean, we relate those colors to the chakras, but are those chakras really those colors?
That's a good question. That's absolutely a good question. And what color is that? There's so many shades and so many hues of each of the colors on the spectrum.
Exactly. So when you ask, what do they mean? I mean, we have the textbook definition of them, but then we also have our own internal, meanings to each color and feelings. Just bring in feelings, right? Because absolutely feelings are 100% part of this whole thing.
Yes.
Right. So I brought in red. Blue is calming. Blue from my practice in with facial reflexology, blue is also controlling, so it's restrictive as well, right? So there's many ways.
When I think of blue, I think of cold. I think of so I guess that's where restrictive could come in, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm going to tag on to what Jan said, because this is what we do in class. So when we say we allow people to give their own interpretation of color, it is their diary. It's their own color. And so when she said red, for me, red reminds me of trauma. Okay. Red reminds me of an area that's very, I will say probably chronic more than acute. Red also for me is, I always had an aversion to the color red. Like red almost was harmful to me to even think about. I never wore it and I never wanted to be around red. To me, I don't know if it was the stop sign thing as a child or why red was that color for me. But what I learned is that feeling of red was something that I needed to put more blue on.
Oh, interesting. So
for me,
utilizing other colors to tone down the emotion attached to the specific color.
Right. Because the blue for me is cool and calming, but it also tells me that there's some sort of emotional need that needs to be filled. So when I see the red, oftentimes I want to put blue on it.
That's really fascinating. And I know, for me, one of my favorite colors is yellow. And I love it. It makes me feel sunny and vibrant and bright. Well, one of my good friends, she hates the color yellow. She just is repulsed by it, And so it's funny how everyone we have an emotional attachment to colors, whether we consciously recognize it or not, right?
In modalities, when I use the color yellow, it's funny that you said that, because when I use the color yellow in modalities, or when I'm working with a client and they say yellow is coming in for her or for him, it's always to me about detoxing.
Oh, interesting.
So, and it's about providing more clarity. So for instance, your friend who doesn't really like the yellow, she might need some detox or may need to gain clarity on something when she's feeling that feeling of yellow.
That's interesting. And I'm always detoxing. So that's probably why I like yellow, because it's just in my energetic field.
And for some people, it means a brand new day.
Yeah.
It's the sun. It's a brand new day. So it just really, when we talk about building our own language and vocabulary around color, this is part of it.
So it's like almost like breaking it down to when we were little kids and you had the primary colors. And so, you guys as practitioners working with color and light, you probably, it's almost like taking that palette when we're children with the reds, greens, and blues and, making all these different colors. It's really fascinating to think that way, to think, there's a color for that. You need more of this in your life. And so I'm just fascinated by that because I think that's really a totally different dynamic to approaching healing and balancing out the body.
Right, absolutely. And there are protocols that we use, and there's protocols that drop in as we are working with people. You know how that is. The intuition kind of kicks in, takes over, and before you know it, you're doing a whole protocol that you probably weren't as familiar with before starting.
Yeah.
But because you're guiding yourself through as well as interacting with that client.
Yeah. So let's walk through when you're working with a client. What does that look like? How does a session look? Because there might be some people, who are listening, who are going to want to reach out to you, after this show. And, let's give them a little bit of a visualization of what and I know you can't say a typical session because they're always different, but what would a session, look like?
Jan, you want to go ahead?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll go first.
Take it away, Jan.
So for me, I work with the aura a lot. So I'll balance out the aura by bringing in different emotions for them. And so that would be one type of session that I do. But also though, if I'm working physically on the body or even non-physically, right? I mean, I'll just picture someone right in front of me and I'll concentrate the colors on a certain part of the body where it's called to. Right. So even when it's working with people though, individually in person, sometimes I will get the feeling of the color. And if I have my color torch with me, then I'll use it. But if not, I'll just put that color on them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really neat. So so have you had experiences where they feel that, like in the moment, do they feel that when you've activated the color within their auric field?
Yeah. They do. They do. Oftentimes they do. And Jennifer will testify to that.
Actually, that I think we've seen it happen over and over again in our classes. We do group classes, and in the classes, everybody has a chance to bring in the colors that they're seeing, and then we talk about it, and then so in using that interaction, we're also bringing in the colors that are coming naturally to them. So a lot of times the colors that they see for a healing is we're already seeing it. It's interesting, but you'll feel the color for them and then they'll say purple. And you're like, perfect, wow. Perfect. Let's work with that. So a lot of times our guides are actually working in unison. I keep doing this. They're making me do this because that's what it is. It's like a cycle of information that goes between the practitioner and the client. And I feel like that they're getting the information just as we are.
That's really cool. And I immediately got kind of a download that said, Tanya, now you'll be able to do this too, because I'm connecting with you gals. So, yeah. And I'm sure what I'm doing, you'll be able to start doing too, because I think energetically, when we connect in these ways, we activate one another with these, abilities and gifts that's built inside of each and every one of us. It's just a matter of tuning in to that frequency and recognizing it. And so when you do your classes, Jenn and Jan, are they online or are they in person? Tell us a little bit about some of the classes that you're doing.
Yeah, so we are. Classes, go ahead, Jan, go ahead.
So our classes are definitely online. From the shore of Hawaii to the shore of Florida. Yeah. But we are fortunate enough to be able to be coming together in person when we do our retreat later this month.
March. So let's talk about that. So when Jenn had actually reached out to me about that, and that's why I said, you need to come on my show because, first of all, Mount Shasta is amazing, amazing energy. I was sharing with Jan before Jenn jumped on that the summer of 2020, I was everywhere. And Mount Shasta was one of the places that I had actually visited. Unfortunately, there was some fires there when I was there, and it was hard for me to see, the beauty of the mountain. But yeah, let's talk about your retreat and when is that and who can come and, all the good juicy details.
So we're really excited because a lot of the people that are coming to the retreat are people that we have worked with before in these virtual classes, because, everybody went virtual for a little while there. So it's nice to know that we're coming together to meet an old friend, and to be able to work with them and to be able to work with some of these some of these protocols. So we're going to be able to do some color light practices. We're also going to do some hikes.
Yes.
We're going to see the sites. We're going to be activated in other ways. And we're really excited about that too. I feel like this is giving us a chance to really just be back in person. We all miss each other. It's like the group interaction has been great online, and we do really well because people love groups and they love in the comfort of their own home with half pajamas, whatever, pajamas on the bottom and top on top.
That's what
whatever.
I'm wearing now.
Yeah. So, people love that, and that they can bring their hot tea and just kind of be comfortable, but we also miss the being in person.
Yes.
So that's
that connection
we're really looking forward to. I'll let Jan fill you in on the details too, and what she sees happening at that retreat.
Okay, well, we entitled it "Harnessing the Energies of Mount Shasta."
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. So because what some people might not realize is that, when we think about Shasta, Lemurians come up, right?
Immediately.
Yeah, Telos, things like that. But there's a lot more that's there. Up in Mount Shasta is kind of like a gathering place. When we went up there, I was up there in October, and when I was up there on the top of Mount Shasta, not top, but old ski bowl, at night, I was like, oh my God, they're all here. It was like it was just a super gathering of people, of beings.
Yeah.
Right.
And I also heard we're here too, like with us right now.
Yeah. Right. So it's just so magical. This is going to be so magical. Now, between that time and now, for me, a lot of things have happened. So we are going to be honing in on the feeling of being home, what it really means to feel like being home is. And a lot of people will say, I understand that, I know that, but let me tell you, no, you don't.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying, Jan. I've experienced that too, where you're like, I thought I was home, but whoa, this is a totally different frequency.
Exactly. Right. When you're taking up, quote unquote, right, to back home where you truly are from. God, that just hit it's hit somewhere.
It's almost, you're making me teary-eyed almost, because it's like that feeling of, that unconditional love and that acceptance and that longing for that place.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a large part of what we're going to be tapping into when we do that retreat. And so there, I know, I've been getting messages. They're excited for us to come. They can't wait to reconnect, with us.
Yeah. And that reminds me, that summer of 2020, I was guided to North Washington to a Sasquatch retreat. Actually, I'm kind of a big Sasquatch gal. I never was living in Florida, but when I moved out to North Idaho, it was something that called to me very, very deeply. And there is a lot of connections to Mount Shasta with Sasquatch as well. And so I was guided to go to this retreat, and I came in contact with what's known as the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. And so that skull called me in, and I immediately heard in my mind's eye, when I was in the presence of that skull, welcome back. It's good to see you again. And I started to see flashes of me and a whole bunch of other people surrounding the skull, programming it in what I thought was Lemuria. So there is definitely these connections and these activations that come up. And when, people come to your retreat, they're going to probably experience some of these things where you cannot question it. You cannot question the energy or the information or the activations, downloads, uploads, whatever you want to call them, that come to you. And so, you, Jen and Jan, are bringing people together to be able to not only connect physically, but to connect energetically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally as well. And I think that is what we have been longing for the last 2 years, that many of us have been very isolated and separated. So I think it's great that you are starting to pull people together, and, share in these frequencies, in this vibration. And that is just amazing. So is sign up for your retreat still open, or is it closed, or, can people still come?
Yeah, it is still open. And information, I'm sure we can put that at the bottom of this, but the information that you'll need is just our website, which is www.allowandflow.com.
Okay.
And all the registration information is there, and details about the trip itself. The beautiful part about what we're doing is we're having a pre-retreat before the retreat.
Oh, that's fun.
So we're doing 5 days of pre-retreat and then the 5 days of the retreat. But the intention was that I know me personally, I'm vibrating as you're speaking. So I know I'm going to have to really acclimate for a good 5 days before I actually get into the retreat part of it, because they're dropping in for me and they keep telling me that I am going to have to learn to facilitate. And I don't think they're telling me that I need to learn how to put on a retreat. I think they're telling me that I need to learn how to truly facilitate.
Interesting.
So
and also being able,
I've been a healer up until now, and now I'm having to learn how to facilitate.
That's interesting, because that's a very different role for sure. A very different role, especially when you have a group of people there. And not only that, you will also be transmuting energy as well, right? As empaths, so that in itself, we've been so isolated, and we've been learning our mastery, learning how to master our own energy. And now, I know for me, when I meet with groups of starseeds or light workers, or, it is off the chain sometimes how you're right, my body will vibrate, or I'll need some downtime, like to process just some of the information that comes through, and, looking in their eyes and having that energy transfer. And, there's so many things that happen when you come in contact with other beings, people at your same frequency.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I know that it's going to be magical. And I have been receiving a lot of information about healings for myself, as well as elevation, the elevation of others. But the funny part is that when I keep hearing this, I've been going through a lot of physical changes over the last couple of high blood pressure in the middle of the night, all those kind of symptoms that you're like, where is all this coming from? And I know it's that they're preparing me. Yeah, I know it's preparation. So Jan and I talk about that, like, oh, how are you feeling today? What's going on today?
And it's different every day, right?
Every day it's moving faster. The energy is learning to move faster and faster through us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's, and I think, too, it's good that you're going 5 days ahead for the pre-retreat, because I'm getting that you're going to be grounding in the energy of Shasta, so in order to do, to hold the real, the retreat, it's important to be able to ground that energy in, because I think you're going to be, it's powerful. It's powerful. And when I was there, I had driven up to as far as I could go, and I walked around in the woods a little bit, and it was so light and airy. And even though it was fire, even though I could smell smoke, I felt this just very light presence, when I was there. And it was very, oh gosh, it just felt so good. It felt so good. So I think you're going to have an amazing retreat. And, so is there anything else that you want to share? Is there anything else that you're doing that, people need to know about?
I don't know, Jan, what else?
Well,
I feel like there's so much.
We do right now. We're doing virtual summer retreats, or summer field trips, I should say, which are like an outing, and with magical stuff happening. But we do a lot of different things. We're going to be doing a class on archetypes,
Mhm.
And it's not, you know, what your archetype is actually, because we're made up many different archetypes. But, you know, it's really an understanding of who you are, how you operate, and then changing that, right, from a different perspective. And then we do our refresh classes. So yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, we just, I don't know.
Go with the flow, right?
Yeah.
Jen's
So,
got
yeah,
pretty
go
well.
with the flow. Look at the website, see what strikes you. The field trips that we're doing are on Sundays, and it's really a lot of fun. It's like an hour and a half, and we just get together and do some fun exercises together. So it's a good way to get a taste for what we do. And those are called SIPs, SIPS. SIPs Summer Series, and that's also on our website. So just come take a sip.
Come take a sip. I love that. That's awesome. So pertaining to light and color, is there anything else that you feel pertinent, you know, that you need to share, or that, you know, the collective needs to hear, or any activations that you feel we could share today for the benefit of humanity?
Yeah. Okay. So this image has been burning in my third eye. So I need to bring this up. So just imagine that you're in a black and white movie, right?
Wizard of Oz. I keep hearing Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Okay, Wizard of Oz. Let's go with that. And then Colorize comes in, and it colorizes the field, or it colorizes the Tin Man, right? But just imagine how it would be to just have that one thing pop up so vivid and so vibrant, right, amidst all of the black and white. Just that feeling, that emotion, that wonderment of that color, just those colors just popping up, right? And everything else is black and white, right? Or sepia, whatever it is, right? But it's monochrome. And so I don't know what message there is in that, but
I have a second part.
I do too. Go ahead, Jen, because I think I'm getting a message.
Yeah, I have a second part to that. So we like to do homework in all our classes. And it's funny because I had one client call me back and said, I'm trying to get the homework to you. I said, no, it's not going to be graded. But we call it homework because it's something for you to work on your own. And so when Jan said this, what came to me was the very first color that pops in that black and white movie, recognize it. Whether it's purple, pink, green, blue, whatever that color is for you, recognize that color, write it down, describe it, describe the emotion that's attached to it, describe when you first saw that color, what you first thought about that color, how that color affects you every day, and what it tastes like. What does that color taste like to you? What does it smell like to you? So that's the homework.
That's funny because as you said taste, I started to taste lemon in my mouth. And so I was like, oh, that's that yellow again. But what I was getting to add on to that was we have been living in a black and white world with our five senses. And when we access our color, we access our higher power, higher frequency abilities, our clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairtangence, you know, all of the clairs that I talk about on my show. And when we activate those, you know, those abilities, we're activating our DNA, our full strands of DNA, and our DNA is lit up with color, you know. And so when we turn on, you know, we go from like the Wizard of Oz, from that black and white, and then Dorothy steps out into Oz, and you see this beautiful, you know, the yellow brick road and all these vibrant colors. That's when, you know, I'm almost visualizing each one of our chakras just bam, 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 you know, like strobe lights, just, you know, kind of floodlights just turning on. And so, you know, when we start to activate one another, we have the color activates, you know, within inside of us. And that's when we become colorful, you know, our personality and the way that we present ourselves and our emotions too. Black and white, I visualize emotions like shame and guilt and, you know, hate and some of those heavier emotions. I guess that's just the way that I was visualizing it. And then when we activate our color spectrum, it's more lighter colors, like the joy and, the happiness and, things that just feel lighter. So I don't know. I think that was a threefold message that we got there from each of us that was coming through.
Like the way they tied that all together, don't you? Those guides just get in there and they go, "Oh, let's make it all work for these people."
Exactly. And I know that's happened with you and I, Jen, when we have done, things before. We're like, whoa, that just totally took us off on a different tangent.
I just want to add something to the senses too when you said that, because we said taste. Every day I eat an orange, and the people who are in my classes, they know they laugh at me because I eat an orange and I followed up with 2 chocolates.
Because you're from Florida.
Yeah, whatever. But the orange for me, that color orange has always been about joy for me, but it also means focus for me. So when I started learning protocols, I learned how to bring in orange for focus. So when I'm looking for focus, joy, I think of that orange. And every day when I sit down midday, when I'm just starting to hit that slump, I eat my orange. So what that's doing is triggering that emotion for me of the focus joy.
That's neat. So is there an exercise that you could share with the listeners that could help them enhance their abilities to sense their colors?
Oh, that's a
Or it could even be something that you do regularly that seems simple to you, but could be helpful for people out, just to really tune in to more of the color spectrum, know?
I'm going to take that.
Okay, go.
Because I'm going to tie it in with the scenario, right? With the black and white and the color coming in. But before I do that, I just want to mention that what they were giving me is, think of it like going in through the Ds, the 3D, the 4D, the 5D, the 6D, right? Because when you get into that mode of seeing that color and just opening up your imagination, that's actually how you connect to source anyway.
Yes.
Right. So that's physically, it's an easier thing for people to hang on to or to use, right, to get to where they want to get to. So, okay. So I digress there, but
no, I like that because I can sense what dimension I'm in based off of the colors that I see and based off of how vibrant it appears.
Right. Right. So the clearer it gets, the whiter it gets, the higher we're getting. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, sorry. So what's your question?
An exercise.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say, take that color, close your eyes, take that color, what pops out to you from that black and white scenario, right? And then just start feeling into it. Allow that lemon to pop out, or allow that orange to pop out. And just what they're showing me now is things just popping out, literally popping out of that color, right? And even a smell popping out of that color, and to just immerse yourself into that and just see. It's like a cartoon, actually, is what they're showing me, right? And just immerse yourself into it, and even and you can even go into the emotions that you're feeling. What is that emotion? And it may be not good, an emotion that may not feel so good to you, but then pay attention then to what hue that color is then that's making you feel that way. Right.
Yeah. So tuning into your 5 senses and allowing that color, okay. So that is a good exercise. So, say you pick a color, green or something, and you're like, okay, I'm going to tune into all 5 of my senses. And I'm going to ask myself, what does green taste like? What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Right. And I know for me, I can do that sometimes. I recognize that, I'll be working with a client and I'm tasting bitterness, in my mouth or whatever. So now it's like, I want to take it to the next level and apply a color, to that. I guess I've never really thought about doing that. So, and that's just a very simple exercise that you can do. Pick any color and then, practice, and then maybe go through a color spectrum where you're like, okay, I'm going to try a new color today and see, how that makes me feel. I think that's a great idea.
Green too, Tanya, because I was thinking green. So this is how that works. I was thinking, oh, green would be a good color. And then you said green.
That's funny.
So that works always. But the thing that I love about the green is that when we talk about the hues, like, you can see that deep green that's like the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and you can almost taste the bitterness of the grass. You feel the chlorophyll,
Yeah.
in your body. You see the green that way, the way it stains your clothes.
And you smell it. Yeah.
And you
Like
smell it.
mowed
You smell
lawn.
the fresh cut grass. Yes. And then you can take that same green and you can turn it into a very bright, vibrant Kelly green. And then it looks like those leaves that are just starting to, come off the tops of the little weeds and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's a whole different look. It's a whole different feeling. It's the feeling of something new, of new birth. You see, so you can take this and take it even further by thinking it through as to what this really symbolizes for you and the feelings that it evokes in you. So I would say the step that I would finalize that with is writing it down.
Yes.
Or cementing it somehow. Even if you don't write it down, if you just speak it into your phone, you record your voice talking about it, and then go back and listen, because you're going to always get new messages from that.
I love that. I love
So
that.
I would say write it down or record it or do something to cement it and draw a picture of it. Whatever it is that makes sense to you. I always keep my 64 crayons.
64 crayons. Yeah. We're so in tune. That's hilarious.
It's for crayons.
It's like we're hearing each other's things before we even say it.
Yeah. So that's one of my tools. Play-Doh is another one.
So it's like taking yourself back to being a kid again and starting to color and draw and do things that bring in the colors into your life. And I love that, because that childlike nature is when you get into the flow state, right? When you are, feeling that joyfulness, that playfulness. And oftentimes that's when the creative juices start flowing, is when you're in those states of consciousness, because you don't really care. You're just like, I'm having fun. And now I'm having amazing ideas, flooding to me. So, bringing color into that can be amazing. So, what are some ways that we can bring light, into our presence as well? I know, Jan, you work a lot with light, and both of you do. And so what are some ways that we can bring some more light into our lives?
Okay, I'll take that. All right. So I have a lot of tools. Okay.
She does. She has more tools than I do.
So obviously, I mean,
got a big supernatural alchemist toolbox.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the alchemist in her, right? I collect a couple things, but she's got them all.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. All right. So, so we can use a regular flashlight, actually, and you can use like a sheer scarf, and use that light. Put that scarf over you and use that light in a particular area. You can go out in the sunshine. I mean, that's light, right? I have sunglasses, colored sunglasses, red, white, blue.
Oh, yes. I've heard of those.
Yeah, and you can use those, right? Because the windows to your soul are your eyes, right? And so you don't have to flash a flashlight over that. You can just go out, or you can just use a diffused light from your room.
Yeah.
Right. So there's so many ways. I mean, if you're using a device, then it's a concentrated way of getting that color into you. Mm-hmm. Right. But your clothes, I mean, it may not be see-through, but it's still, and your body is actually emitting light as well. So it's reflecting that color off of you back into your body. Mm-hmm. One of the jokes that I make is, what color underwear do you have?
Yeah,
you're right. Most people buy white, black, and beige.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a client yesterday and said, I was trying to get more rooted, so I do have my red underwear on. I said, awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, so people, but for that aspect though, people don't think about that we have light emitting from our bodies, right? And it's reflected. I mean, it's reflected right back at you.
It is, and I love that, because it's so powerful, and we have more light than we even recognize that we have, and so I think too, just opening your curtains in your home and doing things that bring in natural light. Try to get away from the artificial light if you can, tune into the sun. And I like to decorate, with color. Each room is a different color, because it gives me a different feeling, a different sensation. An exercise I like to use, I learned through my remote viewing classes, were the ambiance exercise. So really, when you walk from one room to another, or from your home outside, feel your energy. What are you recognizing? How does the ambiance change? What are you picking up on with your clairsentience? And you can also correlate that with colors as well. You can say, wow, my home feels a little more gray or white, or, whatever. And then I step outside and I see the trees are green and the sun, and, and the blue sky, all of these things. So just recognizing more color, in your life. And people would always say that to me. I worked in a hospital setting, and most people wear blue scrubs or, plain. And I was always wearing something vibrant and colorful. And people would say that you're so colorful all the time. And I'm like, well, we kind of live in a bland world, right now. At least that was my experience. So it's nice to be able to incorporate that. And if you have to wear blue scrubs, wear something that will bring in, wear some colored shoes, or, something that will bring in some color into your life. Because I know, at least in healthcare, it was difficult to, you couldn't wear what you wanted to wear. You always had to wear, a uniform or whatnot, but I felt like you could spruce it up a little bit.
Well, and I love that we brought in the materials and colors and things, because it's also like, pay attention to what color sheets you're putting on your bed.
Yes.
Maybe lavender would, this whole lavender beds. I mean, there's something to say about that. It doesn't have to be scented in lavender, but maybe the color lavender,
Yeah. And that's what my bedroom is. My bedroom is a deep purple. And so I feel like that's where I do a lot of my meditation, because that's the third eye, right? So that deep, my sheets are deep purple, my curtains, and I have lavender essential oil, all that. So I feel comfortable in there. But then in my workspace, it's more of I've got oranges, and yellows and more vibrant colors, because I want to bring in more of that. I don't want to be sleepy, I want to bring in more of an alertness, an awakeness, or a creativity, to my space. So, just thinking along those lines, if you're decorating your home, bringing in more colors into your home space. And, if you have your workspace in a very sleepy, kind of color, a color that you would feel would be sleepy, then you might want to, shift that color a little bit and see how things change. How does your energy shift with that too?
Again, too, that's another area where people do a lot of the black and white.
Yes. And beige and more earthy tones, which is good. It's good to have some earthy tones, but it's also good to bring in some color.
I did it for myself on my desk with an orange blotter.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, you can do little things, tricks like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a whole change for, the whole, but even if you're working in an atmosphere where you're in an office space where you don't have choices, there's also accessories that you can use, colored staplers, whatever there's things you can use to bring in some color into your desk.
Definitely. So before we wrap up, is there anything else that you ladies would like to share?
I don't know, Jan, anything?
We covered a lot.
I feel like we've covered a lot in a short period of time. I love working with you, Tanya. Every time that we're together, I feel like you said, the sparks are flying. The information is going back and forth. So that's awesome. I love that we brought Jan in on this one too, because I feel like it's nice to have that kind of a connection where you see it going, tumbling in the same vein. All that information is just ruminating between us. So that's been fun, and I appreciate you having us on your channel.
Absolutely. And I thank you so much for, spending the time with me. I know we've tried to book this a few times, and but today everything aligned, and it was meant for us to share this information. And I sent out I posted a podcast yesterday about sound, and I thought, maybe that's why. Maybe I needed to do the sound first, and then now we can touch on the color and light. So I appreciate both of you, and I look forward to hearing all about the amazing activations you get at your retreat and all of the beautiful scenery that you get to see at Mount Shasta. And I know, Jen, you probably want to send everyone love and light, and right, sending it out to the world for everybody. So thank you so much. And thank you all for listening and tuning in to today's show, and I will leave all of the information below so you can reach out to Jenn and Jan if you'd like to sign up for their retreat, or if you'd like to sign up for their SIPs, or even schedule a session with them. I'll leave all that information below so it's easy for everyone to contact you. So thank you so much, Jenn and Jan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.